On behalf of NDFCI, I welcome you all once again to the second edition of Mewa India 2025. Right now for our Walnut Roundtable, it is indeed an honor to now firstly call upon our moderator. He became the CEO of California Walnut Commission and the Executive Director of the California Walnut Board in June 2022. The two organizations represents 4,500 California walnut growers and 73 handlers producing over 1.6 billion pounds of walnuts that are shipped to more than 50 countries. He has held executive roles with Nature Ripe Farms, Sunkist Growers Inc. and California Avocado Commission in the past. It's indeed an honor, ladies and gentlemen, to call upon none other than Robert Walnut for his moderation and his excellence. Robert, always fantastic having you on board, and thank you so much for your valuable time, and we look forward to your expertise. On that note, allow me an opportunity to now call upon our eminent panelists, starting with the Sales Director of Fructexa, a family-owned company specializing in the export of dried fruit and nuts from Chile. He has been actively involved in the international trade, market development, and industry trends. Additionally, his role as Chile's ambassador to the International Nut and Dried Fruit Council, INC, working. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Sebastian Plaza. Also, we'd like to welcome somebody who's responsible for the management of the Empire Nut Walnut Processing Facility and a diversified family business engaged in growing prunes, walnuts, almonds, and peaches in the northern and central valleys of California. He's also a board member at Sunsweet Growers Inc. 2002 to present board member at the River Valley Community Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the managing partner, Empire Nut Company, Gary Theara. Thank you so much, Gary, for joining us. We'd also now like to call upon a fourth-generation leader of the VKC family, somebody who has skillfully utilized his professional expertise to effectively establishing all the processing units of the company in a record time at minimal costs. Never shy of taking challenges head-on, along with his brother Gunjan, he has spearheaded growth in the family company VKC. Thanks to their teamwork, VKC has become India's leading nuts and dry fruit company, starting from a humble journey from its small roots in Jammu and Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, he's somebody who oversees the processing and production operations across the company's multiple locations, and his journey truly has been a testament of what a successful company looks like. Let's give it up for none other than Gagan Jain, Director of VKC Nuts. And with that, Robert, I'd like to leave it in your able hands to take it forward.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate everybody coming. I know it's the end of the show and it's easy to leave, but we think we've got a good panel here with a lot of good information. What we're going to do is we have several presentations that give some graphic depiction of what's going on in our respective areas, and then we'll have a dialogue afterwards talking about some of the opportunities that all of us see in the walnut industry here in India. Obviously, we're very optimistic about growth, and many of you have said the same thing to us over the last couple of days, and we want to continue to move forward in walnut sales, both to importers but also through retailers, and ultimately we want to get consumers, more consumers, to buy more walnuts more often at a higher price. And so we'll get into those discussions after the presentations. And if I could have the first presentation brought up, I'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, apologies, we'd like to intervene, and I'm so sorry, Robert, I'd never like to cut you short on anything you'd like to explain or share your prowess on. We're going to be now, of course, inviting somebody who is the General Manager, Sales and Logistics of Starman Webster from Australia. He's somebody who, of course, Stam & Webster as a company grows, processes and packs Australian walnuts, macadamias and pecans along the east coast of Australia. Our leader has been with the company for over 10 years and enjoys the orchard to customer aspect of the nut industry, and his role at the company and associated logistics and supply chains is truly valued. Let's call upon none other than Nick Dowdis. Nick, please accept my humble apologies. We were just discussing backstage, why do we have an extra chair? And then they said, hey, there's an extra panelist, so apologies on that. I hope you accept our apology on the same. And with that, Robert, over to you.
Yeah, so Nick, we'll give you 5 extra minutes at the end. Well, again, thank you very much. If we can have the presentation brought up, that would be easier to talk about these numbers. There we go. So again, just a couple of quick slides to give a perspective of what's going on in the industry. Many of you know that there's been significant growth globally. For us in California, likewise, we've seen very significant improvement and increase in production. Number of acres went up very significantly in the 2017-2018 timeframe. A lot of that in anticipation of being able to service the Indian market. Notwithstanding some of the challenges that we've had with access, all in all, we continue to see our numbers going up. Everybody wants to know what's the crop size. This year we had a smaller crop than we've had, one of the smallest crops we've had in a long time, mainly driven by weather conditions in the winter and kind of mild spring weather. We like to have a more aggressive spring than what we saw. Originally, USDA came out with a number of 670,000 tons. That was adjusted downward, and right now we're reporting 600,000 tons with about 95,000, and these are all short tons, 95,000 short tons that were carry-in. Much of that was already pre-sold because of the market conditions at that time. We anticipate next year to see a moderate-sized crop. We've had very good rain. In fact, right now it's raining in most of California, and our temperatures have been very satisfactory. So we will come into the harvest season in September, October of this year with virtually no old crop in the system, and so the new crop will be available immediately for shipment starting in October. So we're excited about that. That will give us a more realistic market that we would think everybody would want to take advantage of. People talk about the viability of the industry. We had a surge from plantings. These numbers represent acres that have been planted, and then we peaked out in 21 and 22, but with 22 we had a disastrous crop condition because of the heat wave, and after that some of the growers that had older varieties decided to take those out. So we've actually seen a reduction of approximately 50,000 acres. The next 2 years, the number of new acres coming in and old acres going out will stabilize. So we see the industry with about 400,000 acres as the baseline. What's interesting about that is if you take a look at the outer rim here, 67% of our acres are 19 years or younger. So these are very young, vibrant trees. Average walnut tree will last about 35 to 40 years, good production numbers. So that represents a really strong core for the industry. And as you can see, the balance of 33% are 20 years and older. Some of the varieties that are no longer in favor represent that acreage, and that's about 10%, and those are being removed over the next year to 2 years. So we think we have a very strong industry. Much of that is Chandler variety, which is the preferred variety in most of the international markets for us. So we think we're here for the long run. So that gives you a perspective of where we are in California. Next, we'll turn it over to Chile. Sebastián.
Hi, so first of all, I want to congratulate to the NDFC for this great Congress they have done. I'm happy to be here representing Chilenat and Frutexa in this round table. Well, first of all, I want to show how are the plantations area in Chile. At first, we have the cherries with 70,000 hectares planted. Cherries has been an excellent business in the last 15 years. 95% of the cherries are all going to China, and that's have given good returns to growers. In the second, we have the walnuts. It's the second largest crop in Chile with 43,000 hectares planted. I'm going to go deeper in the next slide. And then we have hazelnuts with 36,000 hectares. And in the last year have been increasing a lot. Mainly the plantations are in the south of Chile. The growing areas for the walnuts, it's mainly in the central of Chile. The production is in a length of 1,000 kilometers, and it has presence in 8 regions. The main plantation region is the metropolitan region, which is the capital of Santiago of Chile is located, and it has 15,000 hectares. Well, here we see the walnuts production evolution. So we could see that since 2010 till 2022, we have been increasing the volumes year by year, and in 2022 we reached 187,000 tons. Next year we reached 182,000 tons, and last year we had a decrease in the volumes to 139,000 tons. This was mainly because of the climate that we had. We didn't have much cold in the winter, then we have rains in the spring, and the winter was too hot. And this year we have had great conditions in the central region, so we are expecting great quality, and the production is expected in 168,000 tons. I wanted to put here our main destinations from the Chilean walnuts. These are the initial shipments. We could see that India last year, 2 years ago, 2023, they reached almost the 50,000 tons, mainly in Chandler variety. India was followed by Turkey, and then Italy, and then Morocco. Morocco, the main variety we export to it is Ser variety. And in the shelled walnut, definitely the largest destination is the European market. The largest one is Spain, which we have been increasing year by year, and it's really constant during the time. Then it's Germany, then we had Italy, so then Netherlands, and then it's South America. It's also an important region for us. We do have big sales there. And Brazil, Ecuador, and Uruguay, and of course the Chilean domestic market, it's important for us. So in general terms, here we could see all the shipments, initial equivalent. We had been diversifying in the last year. This is because of the industrialization of our process. We have really great trade agreements with most of the countries all over the world. And also Chilenat, the association, it had done a really great job trying to push the sales and to know the benefits of the Chilean walnuts worldwide. So despite that, of course, India still buys the 25% of the Chilean crop.
Thank you very much for having me. I'll give a brief update on the Australian walnut crop. I'll start with the regions as outlined on the map. So Australian production is based around river systems, New South Wales and Victoria High Country, as well as Tasmania down the bottom on the east coast, and a small new emerging development in Western Australia, which is predominantly organic but also conventional walnuts as well. So as I said, all of these locations are based on river systems, so very high amount of water security with surface water in the walnut regions of Australia, which puts us in a good position for dry periods, which are most likely to return in the coming years in Australia. I'll give a quick update on the current crop. So we're actually harvesting this week, which is a couple of weeks earlier than normal. The crop is a little bit lower for this year, as expected. After quite a large crop last year, large in Australian terms, not in world terms, but yeah, reached 14,000 metric tonne, and this year our estimate is around 12,000 metric tonne. So early indications are that nut size is up around 2 millimetres compared to last year, and also so far harvest has been a little bit quite dry, which is good, as you know. So we do expect that next year the crop will grow again. There has been some new developments of walnuts in the last 5 years which are coming into maturity. So those varieties, Howards and Chandlers, have been targeted more toward the India market and also kernel markets away from the traditional varieties of Viners and Ashleys, which were developed in Australia back in the late 1990s. So yeah, demand is very strong as we move into new season with our harvest 2 weeks ahead. I think it was only last year at Mewa that Robert declared that the crop was going to shorten out of California, and the seasonality and the counter-seasonal northern and southern hemisphere would have less overlap in future. And that's what obviously we're seeing at the minute with very strong demand for counter-seasonal, which hasn't happened in the last 5 to 6 years, where California and southern hemisphere have overlapped with their supply. I've just got a quick summary here of our edible meat yield from last season, which was quite interesting. So we had a 2% upside on the average edible meat yield, which has lifted Chandler variety, for instance, to 49% from 47%, and the same token with Howard and Sir. So each had a 2% increase in the meat yield associated to the crop. And just a summary of Australian walnuts by destination. So the Australian market is still where much of the consumption occurs, but India, Germany, Italy, all quite a large part of our Australian walnut program. So consumption in Australia has been a little bit slower with the economy being a little bit poorer than previous years, and walnuts in Australia tend to be discretionary spend for a lot of consumer groups. So India is a very important part of our program, and like I mentioned, we have more Chandler being developed, targeting kernel markets, targeting the India market, and targeting a changing away from some of the traditional varieties such as Viner and Ashley for the market. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll take you through Indian walnuts. So I think this is the first slide, Indian walnuts, the walnut story. The crop harvest is again the same as Northern Hemisphere crop, September, October. So we have no fixed variety, we have a mixed variety, as most of our trees are very old and it's all 100% grown on hills. So mostly the plantation is in Jammu and Kashmir, the main growing region. Here I have put in all the growing regions where the actual crop is there, and I have put in all the figures and how it is impacting, how it's a local source of livelihood for the area, how manually the work is done. And there is one figure which I always quote: in India, mostly the walnuts are hand cracked, and 1 ton produces 40 man days. So that's a figure which gives us a lot of pride, and it gives us quite a lot of employment also. And this industry is not much mechanized. Cracking is still hand. So next, we have put in crop figures. As you can see, we are somewhere near 28, 30, 35, but unfortunately the production is going down as most of the old trees have not been replaced by new young trees. Though efforts are being made now, people are planting new trees, but it's a long way to go, and the crop size is 25 to 30,000 tons. This year it is expected somewhere the trade is estimating at 28,000 to 30,000 tons. So this is interesting. the walnut consumption in India is rising, and I think this is the area which everybody has interest on. So as you can see, every year it is growing. So you can see the figures where we are headed. I think this year it's already a good 90,000 tons. So 25,000 tons is what we produce and we sell locally, that is the Kashmir crop. And then 50,000 odd tons have come in from Chile and 10 to 15,000 from California, the main regions. And this is also interesting to point out to everybody, the phytosanitary protocol which exists on date. So you can say we can easily get in USA, Chile, Australia, Ukraine, and what countries we don't have a phyto control at the moment? China, Argentina. So these are some of our Californian and Chile friends, how walnuts are being sold at supermarkets, at local shops. So this gives you a perspective how Indian market is growing. And I think what is most important for everybody here is that Indian walnut consumption is rising year on year. As you had seen in the previous slides, we are every year increasing the imports, we are every year increasing the volume. And due to the health benefits everywhere now, each doctor saying that walnuts are good for heart, I think walnuts have only to go higher. So again, one of few photographs, the price points at which it is being retailed, to just give you an idea. And this is also very interesting how the market is going to be and what we feel is the future. Like it's a traditional, how we have to package it right, how we have to do good things to walnuts, and how we have to get good stuff at the retail level. Consumer has now become very discerning and he demands absolutely the best. Sometimes the consumer demands that 100% of the nuts should be extra light in color, which exactly isn't there, it's a tree nut after all. So I think I have given you some feedback on the Indian industry, and I think now Robert can take us ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause for the information they just shared. Nick, half of that was for you because you got double what you deserved. Let's talk a little bit about some of the factors that are changing the way that production is seen internationally. So you didn't mention the upcoming crop and what you foresee, but it's different than what you've seen in the past. What are some of the things that are contributing to that?
Yeah, well, this year we are estimating a production of 168,000 tons. That it's less than the potential that we had in Chile and we had in the 2 years ago and 3 years ago. That was 185,000 tons, more or less. This is mainly because of two reasons. There in the south part of Chile, in a very specific part near the mountain, we had some drizzles, and this provoked the blast to be in the orchards, and that makes walnuts to drop from the tree. It's a very specific area. It should be no more than 8,000 tons. There are also some hectares mainly in the north that have been removed. And also in the north, in the fourth region and third region, there is a lack of water. So we are also expecting maybe 2,000 or 3,000 tons less from this area.
Terrific. Gary, how about in the U.S., we're going from the largest crop in history to currently one of the smallest. What do you attribute that to? And when you look at the upcoming year, what do you see?
Well, I think in your slides characterized it well. Yeah, we had the largest crop, but then it was commensurate with the acreage, and you saw a lot of that acreage come back out. Now we've come in with one of the smallest crops. I would say probably a little bit unique. We probably need one more year this year to see what is our normal crop. I suspect our normal crop is closer to what we just produced rather than what we produced a year prior. And you've seen the acreage come down. So I think, to be determined, but if I had to guess, we're probably going to be closer to what we just delivered versus what we delivered 2 years ago.
Yeah, so around 700,000 in that
yeah,
neighborhood?
I would take that bet.
Nick, from in Australia, a relatively young industry, still evolving and growing. What are the challenges that you're seeing, both from a production standpoint, some of the discussions here, but also how do you keep up with it, and what do you see in the near future as far as new acreage?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we have challenges in Australia with, this year we had a frost, which was the first time in many years which we've had a frost. The last couple of years we've had enough water, but the outlook over the next 5 is that water will become more expensive. And each year it seems there is something. Walnuts are very temperamental in terms of growing and then harvesting and then getting that dry conditions moving in to harvest. It doesn't take much to move the dial. Nothing specific except for the challenges, I guess, with the market wanting more Chandler, is that Chandler is one of the harder nuts in Australia to set the crop on the tree. It's obviously more forgiving as the year rolls on, but it is one of the harder nuts to set on the tree in Australia given the climate and the early start to summer, which can sometimes put the Chandler at risk of non-pollination. But yeah, we have to grow what the market wants, obviously, and yeah, Howards and Chandlers with a higher crack out, better colour is where the industry is going in Australia.
What is the current acreage, and what do you see in the next 5 years?
So the current hectares is around 3,000, and at the minute there's very limited amount of development. I guess one thing is that trees are very hard to come by in Australia. So traditionally, it was easier to get rootstock, whereas at the moment it's very challenging to be able to get access to new trees. So it will probably increase by there's about another 1,000 hectares, and sorry, not acres, but hectares coming into production in the next 5 years. But I don't see it going any further until we are able to get our nursery stock.
Terrific. Thank you. One of the things that around walnut trees is that what happens this year affects the crop for the next 2 years. And so just like marketing, what you do this year affects next year's market. It's the same thing on the growing side of it. So as a grower, you're always looking ahead for 2 years, not just what's coming up. And certainly Mother Nature is in charge to some extent, as we've seen with rain and drought. But at least for California, we've seen at least a stable environment the last couple of years. But when you don't have the chill hours or you have some unusual spring weather, that can affect what the tree has. It just doesn't give it to us at that time. So there's the whole farming aspect of this that is challenging. And as Nick said, some of our varieties are a little bit more temperamental than others, and as a result, there's always some movement in the marketplace. Let's shift to the market itself, though. As you look at India and the success that all 3 countries here have had, Sebastian, talk a little bit about how you see India from your perspective in Chile, and where are the opportunities in the future?
Since we started selling walnuts in India, that this was 10 years ago or 8 years ago, we have seen every year increasing and doubling the volumes of the imports. And last year they reduced compared with the 2 years ago, but it was mainly because Chile was short. India wanted to buy more, but we definitely didn't have more to sell here last year. I think that India has taken really great the quality of the Chilean walnuts. They really appreciate the color of the shell, the color of the kernels, the extra light that we have. And also the yield. We have a really great yield. So I'm very optimistic in the future with the Chilean walnuts. They are taking big part of the Chilean production, and of course they are taking part from Chile. And then when the northern hemisphere, they are switching to California, and that's good, I think, for the whole industry.
Yeah, the transition between Chilean and Northern Hemisphere, U.S., California, the smoother it is, the better it is for the growers, but also for the markets. And so while we don't work together, we certainly have communications and understand what each other is facing. And as a result, I think we're going to see more stable markets in the future. Gary, how about you? What do you think about some of the programs here? Gary has family here in India, and his mother-in-law has promised him that she's going to buy more than she has been.
That's right, that's right. No, I would dovetail on what you're saying. I think, the Chilean, Californian, transition, I think, works well for India. I mean, it allows them to constantly be in fresh supply with walnuts. And so that makes, in India, a good segment, a good market for California in the U.S., and it's very complementary to the other markets that we go into. We just need to, as we're learning, as we're coming in, I think we need to learn what that means and how we participate in the market so that we can have some continuity and stability, backward from the market all the way to the farm gate for the California growers.
Nick, any thoughts on your part?
Australia has a growing demand here, obviously, in India, which is great, and the shortening of everybody's crops and the counter-seasonal from Australia allows us to work in quite nicely, how we traditionally did in other markets around the globe, where California would do the first half of the year and then Chile come in and we'd sort of tack on the back of that. So it seems now that through strategic planting and making sure that demand keeps up with supply, that the market is in quite a good position in terms of supply and demand. So we see this market as being able to really help to move the additional volume which we have from Australia.
Great, thank you. Gagan, I'm going to ask you to be a little bit challenging here. With your family's history, you've seen a lot of things change in the way that commerce is undertaken. What do you see today as the trends in marketing the product from all of our producing areas into India? And what would you advise us of areas that we need to focus in on to keep growing demand?
So I think, to be really honest, California board and Chili Nut is doing a wonderful job in promoting it. So I think we have to keep up with the promotions. We have seen the result from where we started and where we are today. The Indian consumer is already very disciplined and he's buying, seeing everything. He needs a good yield, he needs a good color. But the best part is once we are going ahead and once we have been limiting our activities to Tier 1 cities majorly. So my idea is that we need to go to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities where we have just touched the tip of the iceberg. We need to go little down and there we will get new demand. So we have to create some new markets and Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Once the consumer is more aware and he's more aware of the marketing activities like the shows, the chef shows, the doctor's shows and all those things, that really helps. And walnuts is one item which really is going great. As I have shown you the figures, everybody has the figures, that we need to work more on walnuts, and walnuts is one commodity which is not very easy to handle in our typical climate where temperatures in summers are as high as 45 degrees centigrade. So we need to educate our partners, our shopkeepers, our retailers on how to preserve them, how to keep them in their supply chain. We need to improve the supply chain because at the end of the day, if a consumer gets a bag of walnuts and he doesn't like the taste, because walnuts have a problem that they go rancid very fast in this high temperatures. So we need to develop those and we need to educate our consumers also that, hey, at the end of the day, it's a tree nut. And we need to keep our walnuts safe and make sure that the quality reaches in well in time. And I think if we are there and if, I think the demand will always be good. So we are looking at a CAGR of 25 to 30% every year. I'm quite sure of it and I'm quite bullish on walnuts. Walnuts is, as it is, it's very close to me.
Thank you. Good insight. How about the three of you? What are the programs that you're doing to help people like all of our importers that are looking for assistance and so on. Can you give the audience some examples of some of the programs that you personally are working with? We'll start with you since you're next. So what kind of additional marketing services are you providing the trade here to help expand consumption?
Well, with the Chilenatas Association, we are investing, we've been investing in the last 5 years. With the importers, we have done marketing in the market in Delhi, also here in Mumbai. We are doing visits every year. We are with the authorities. And in a level of association, I think we're doing quite a lot of things in order to promote the Chilean walnuts.
Gary, do you want to touch on that too?
Yeah, I think, well, two things. I think with respect to the marketing and the programs we offer, I think you're the expert, and I'll defer to you on that. But I would like to follow up with what the comment that Gagan pointed out in terms of what India needs from the handler community, from the grower community, in terms of quality and the storability, shipment, logistics issues. And I think, at least speaking from a California perspective, the California handlers and the California growers, I think they have come to understand that well over the last few years, and are responding to that. I mean, I'll speak for Empire not specifically, but I know it speaks to the entire industry. We're making the investments in cold storage. We're taking care to say, hey, look, the quality parameters. Unfortunately, I have to concede, Chile seems to have done a great job to tell the world what they want. So California is stepping up and saying, hey, we can do that too, and we're delivering. And so we're looking at what we're receiving and saying, okay, this product, meets the Indian standards, the quality that they want. Now, to your point, are we storing it well during the year? Are we processing it? Are we shipping it? So we can do as much as we can to deliver that product that you're asking for, that the Indian market is asking for, and then it becomes the challenge for the Indian market to take it from there and how do they store it, where do they put it, and how do they process it? And I think if all of those issues can get addressed and worked out, then this continues to be a great market for us.
Yeah, good add. Nick, from down under, what kind of things do you see from a market development perspective that you could share with us?
Definitely. So we don't have a marketing budget. We do get assisted by these other countries in terms of spend, but sampling campaigns in Australia, but also similar to the point of quality. So we have, when we're harvesting, we're targeting what we call India spec, which on extra light, which isn't always possible, but we do have methods in place in terms of harvesting at a particular time to maximize that extra light, and then being able to segregate to say India spec products compared to say the traditional Australian consumer isn't going to know as much, and then by the same token with the supply chain. So given we've always crossing the equator with a lot of our shipments, being in a reefer, mostly targeting very fast transit times with minimal amount of time at transshipment, which has a massive impact on quality when it does arrive in India.
All good comments. One of the things that I find with the nut industry is that we are very supply driven. I think all of us really need to shift to being much more demand driven, and how do we get the product pulled through the system faster so that quality is not the same issue as it is today, because rancidity for walnuts is a result of heat and temperature, but it's also for lack of movement through the system. So I guess my next questions would be, how do we accelerate sales so that quality becomes less of the issue and it's more about moving volume through the system?
So I think the real answer to this is what you said in the beginning. We need to go to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, get the demand out of those cities, make the volume move faster, and the whole cycle starts moving at a faster pace. So I think that's the answer where we need to focus our energy on. We have seen the results of, like the pistachio board, which has done the promotion for the tier 1 cities. So we have 3-4 years ago, that category didn't exist. Now that category is a good category. So same with walnut. But the good thing about walnuts is that every consumer knows walnuts. So because they have seen Indian walnuts over the years. So now the good thing is that if we have a good product, and I think we can easily get good product, the chili comes in summer, it is in good time for Diwali and for winter consumption, which is again a very good consumption period. That is where the California comes in, due to that difference in crop. And if we can just push the goods faster to those cities, we can push the supply chains faster, the good product gets there, the consumer obviously, and at the price point, India is very price sensitive also. So if the consumer gets a good product at a good price, I think the product gets picked up fast, the cycle moves fast, the volume moves fast. So I think the real answer lies in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. That's where we need to focus on.
Yeah, certainly from a larger perspective, that I would agree with you. But let's get down to the consumer level. How do we inspire more consumers to buy more walnuts more often? And I'll let somebody volunteer, and nobody wants to look at me like they don't want to answer the question. But how about yourself? How do we get more consumers to buy more walnuts more often here in India?
I think that you guys have done a great job already, but I think that there's still a lot to show about the benefits of the walnuts. There are huge benefits for the brain, and we have to still promote and spend in marketing and trying to get to the consumers, explaining all the benefits and try to push them to buy more and more every year.
I was listening to a talk earlier, and they had two I guess the powerhouses in terms of retail here, and they were talking about the value add and transitioning from a commodity to a value-added product, and that as the Indian economy has grown, people are prepared to pay the prices that are associated with that, and so it made a lot of sense to me. And so I think, but the basic building block is the quality product that I think we've all talked about and agreed that is available and can be delivered at least to India, and then it's incumbent upon the Indian distributors, everybody else in their channel to take that product and continue to handle it in such a manner that quality is preserved, and then we can get it into those value add channels and to consumers. And so I think I'd certainly think Chile is doing their part. I think California is doing their part in terms of getting the quality product to the gate, and now I think it's incumbent upon the Indian channels to get it to the consumer.
So I have one more idea, that Walnut Commission here is doing an excellent job. So I think you need to push them to now travel to some lower parts and keep up the tempo. So we have built up a very good tempo over the last 3 years, I think, and we just need to slow it down. We need to pace it one more level up. So I think we have done the good hard work. The results are coming in. So let's keep up the tempo, and I think then whatever target you set for India, I think India will easily achieve it and surpass it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say whatever targets we put for India. It's more of how developed the market is, and we will make sure we have product for you.
Yes, the market will develop.
The market, that's right. The marketplace sets that. Sebastian talked about the health benefits of walnuts, and that message certainly is getting to the consumer here through social media, influencers, things of that nature. And many of them are talking about the relevant health benefits for a younger generation. Gagan, I'll ask you, in the works that you did and the slides that you showed, you've downsized your packaging, or you have a variety of different package sizes. Some of that is to appeal to a younger audience that may not have this disposable income. Can you explain that a little bit further?
Yes, we have smaller packs now, because you don't want a consumer to go away at any price point. If a consumer comes in, for example, it could be a 100 rupees pack, it could be a 200 rupees pack, or even as low as a 50 rupees pack. So we don't want a consumer to go away just on the price. So maybe his quantity is less at a buying point, but once he gets picked up, once the item gets picked up, we are sure that he will come back. And health benefit is actually helping the market grow. There is a lot of promotion. So that's what I'm saying. Doctors are prescribing walnuts. So they are doing our job. So we just have to make sure the product is there for them. And the social media, the influencers, so everybody talks about nuts. So that part I think is already taken care of. We just now need some little push. Like I said, metros, we are already there. So many good billboards are there. The benefits are there. The chef shows are there. Recipes are there. Everything is going on. The chef books shows are also there. So I think we need to just take it down to tier 2, tier 3, and I think we'll have the next sudden spurt in demand.
Excellent, excellent. I want to dive a little bit deeper into Gen X and some of the younger generations. What do you find is their familiarity with walnuts, and is there more work to be done there?
A little bit. We can target because they will be our future consumers for the next 10 to 15 years, 20 years. So we need to work on them. We need to spend more energy on them. And they have the energy.
Yeah, they have the disposable income to chase, that's for sure. We're getting close to the end. We'll open up for a couple questions in the audience. If anybody has any questions, raise your hand.
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, kindly raise your hand. Our team will direct the microphone to you. Thank you so much, Robert, for your curation. Just allow us a minute. If you have any questions, kindly raise your hand.
Up front in center.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm Sujiv, and I've been a walnut person. Like, my family's into the walnut business for many, many years, like, you know. And of course, I've been able to bring my next of my generation, though it's tough. But what I need to seek from the Californians or the Australians or the Chileans is that we need to develop this market in a different way. Like, of course, we are using the walnut as a walnut, you know. So we need to see that we end up making more of it as an ingredient in terms of Indian cooking, you know. And we need to curate recipes and go into those areas where you have the traditional recipes which are dying down, you know. And we need to create and invest some time and resources so that, you know, when actually people start to start to see and use, you know, like we have kind of, you know, grandma recipes, you know. Now, these are something which are more relevant these days because they are natural. They are curated with natural ingredients, you know, and these are becoming relevant, especially in today's time when the younger generation is looking for more protein, more nutrition, you know. So this is an area where I would like the associations to invest, you know, so that you know the system starts to generate an interest from those people, you know, once they know that how they can use the walnuts like.
No, excellent comment. And I think I heard a question in there, and that is, how do we extend our sales beyond just thinking about retail and really starting to look at the culinary, food service areas, even food manufacturing to some extent?
Well, I think for that we need to identify certain areas which are traditional to walnut consumption, you know. And for that matter, you know, let's say that North India, Rajasthan, Gujarat, now these are areas, Punjab, Kashmir, these are areas which have been using walnuts, you know, because of the climate also. And yes, because these regions, we have the winter in India, you know, which is more relevant to these areas, and people need more protein, you know. And especially if we have to target the women folk, because if we find an average woman, we realize that her protein intake, especially the vegetarians, is much, much less, you know, and doctors are really asking the women folk to increase their protein consumption. So we need to seek that our recipes, we throw the walnuts as they would be, you know, it's just like for garnishing, so that you know, the usage comes more as a routine rather than, you know, specific, you know.
Yeah.
All right, apologies, I'll have to cut in on that. If, Robert, I can just allow the others, and if there's any question, we can direct to our panelists. Yes, let's give the gentleman at the back an opportunity to ask a question. Ladies and gentlemen, please raise your hands if you have any questions. Of course, Robert's been very kind with his time along with all our eminent panelists. Over to you.
Hello, gentlemen, dear guests. I'm Gio. I represent my own company. We are growing walnuts in Georgia, also emerging region as just Australia. And congratulations to all of the organizers. What a wonderful Mewa exhibition we got this year. My question will be about the price points. What are the expectations of the price points? If you, gentlemen, all of you can tell us about what will be the price point this year, what are the predictions for the spring, so Chilean price points, and the autumn, of course, the American.
Thank you.
I'm talking about Chile. We were coming from prices that were really low, that the growers, at least in Chile, they were losing money. That's why there had been many hectares that had been removed also in Chile. And today, if you are not efficient, you are losing in the ground, in the orchards. Fortunately, with California, the lack of production that they have, prices have increased. And right now, we are going to enter to the market. We have shipments starting in May, end of April. And the situation looks good. The trend is like the prices are increasing. So we are pretty positive in terms of the prices for all the industry.
Gary, you want to touch on yours?
Well, I guess what I can say about pricing is that it's not an accident in California that the acreage decreased by 50,000 acres that Robert alluded to. I mean, that's all. Those orchards didn't just get old and go away. The valuation at the farm gate was not viable, and so, you know, in building a sustainable market where the product as it's demanded is available, I do believe you have to look at everything from the beginning to the end, and you know, the viability of the commodity is paramount. I was talking to somebody earlier and using an analogy of building a skyscraper. If you want to think of, you know, a commodity and you want to think of value add and building a market up, the commodity component, which is the farm gate value, that you have to consider as the foundation. And you have to, if you want to build a beautiful skyscraper, you have to build it on a solid foundation. And then once you have a solid foundation and you have a viable grower community across the world, across, you know, Australia, Chile, California, then you can add all the glass and the glimmer and the fancy chandeliers in which would be the value add, but you have to start with a solid foundation.
So I think I think it's a market-driven thing and demand-driven. So I don't think we can delve much into it. Robert and Gary have already space enough talked most of it how it needs to be done. So I think specifics, we can't be very specific, that we can't predict, and this is not a place where we can predict the price to be.
So basically on the supply and demand analysis.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Would you like to contribute as well?
Thank you. My only comment is that the current pricing, if you look at, say, the 10-year average, we have come out of 3 years of very depressed prices, and walnuts were probably seen as less valuable as a commodity. But if you're looking at the pricing now, it is around the 10-year average, and it wasn't about 12 years ago. The China frost really put walnuts and their value on people's minds, and so the current pricing levels at the minute may seem higher based off last year, but it is around where the price needs to be for a sustainable industry moving forward.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we conclude with the Walnut Roundtable. I think it's been fabulous hearing such great dignitaries on stage. Let's give them a warmer round of applause to thank them for their valuable time. Thank you so much. Robert, thank you so much. Sebastian, Gary, Gagan, and Nick. May we request you to please join us in the center of the stage. Allow us to further put the spotlight on you and allow me an opportunity to call upon Sunny Jaga, the founder of Anytime Nature Foods and of course the founding member of NDFCI as well to please join us and help us in the felicitation. First up, if we can invite all of you to come a little ahead of the table so that we can get a perfect shot. Let's first have all of you come together for a group photograph. Please, Sunny, do join them. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for what serves to be a fantastic panel discussion. A lot of you are standing in awe and respect of all our speakers. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Sebastian, Gary, Gagan, and Nick for joining us on the second edition of Mewa India 2025. Sunny, now if I may request you to please give a token of appreciation to all our panelists. Team, can we bring the mementos in the center? Sunny, starting with you and Robert in one frame. Robert, if you can step forward along with Sunny in the center of the stage, allow us a moment to capture you and put the spotlight. Ladies and gentlemen, he's always been so incredible. Let's give him a warmer round of applause for sharing and lending his expertise and being a part of the second edition of Mewa India 2025. Sebastian, if we may request you to please step forward, allow us an opportunity to give you a token of appreciation. Let's give Sebastian a warmer round of applause. Well, a lot is happening right here on the second edition. Gary, if I may request you to please step forward in frame with Sunny Jaga. Let's give Gary a warmer round of applause to appreciate his valuable time and expertise. A well-rounded conversation with various countries coming in. Gagan, if I may request you to please step forward in spotlight with Sunny Jaga. Let's give them a big round of applause. Gagan Chen. And of course, we'd like to now further invite Nick. Let's give him a warmer round of applause and thank him for all his expertise. Right in the nick of time, we did call him on stage. And thank you so much, Nick, for joining us on the same. So with that, what a fantastic discussion. We'd like to humbly thank all of you. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to join the audience and thank you for your valuable time. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot is happening right here at Mewa India 2025. Do not go anywhere as just in the next 1 minute, we're starting with our final session here, which is fueling India's dry fruit and nuts industry, the necessity of institutional capital. Trust me, this is something we've been waiting for. We'd urge all of you to kindly settle in. We'll give you a minute to revolve around network, but in the next 1 minute, we're going to be starting quickly with our upcoming discussion. In that conversation, we're going to be having Vivek Kumar from Venture Garage. We're going to have Vijay Dhanuka from Motilal Oswal, Tamarish Sinha from Off Business. We're going to be having Rachit